a dream but feel stuck, if you are facing obstacles that seem overwhelming, or if you just need a dose of motivation to keep pushing forward, then you are in the right place. So buckle up, dreamers. Anchor Your Dreams is not just a podcast. It's a community of dreamers supporting dreamers, women supporting women. Subscribe, follow along, and let's navigate the seas of ambition together. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and empowered. The journey begins now. Is a first for me, a solo episode, and I am going to be talking today all about feedback. My initial thought when I decided to do the podcast was to have a guest and then do a solo one, then have a guest and then do a solo one. I certainly have no end to the ideas of what I've wanted to talk about on a solo podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about feedback. I'll be talking about my outlook on feedback, how it changed as well as where I struggled, and I should actually reframe that to be where I struggle and what has worked for me in the rewiring and reframing. For years, I thought of feedback and criticism as interchangeable. They are both coming from a place of change, not acceptance. Therefore, I felt that they came from a negative place, and intentions of giving feedback or criticism was also negative. Just because I see feedback differently now doesn't mean some feelings don't pop up when I am hearing that my ideas, my product, my creation, anything that comes from my heart are not 100% accepted in the views of others. I also find myself anticipating what feedback may be. This seems to be a way for me to protect my ego. When I think about this, I think about how a lot of people will point out a flaw of themselves before it is pointed out by others. Often, an example is when somebody has a pimple on their face, they'll make some kind of joke about it right away before anyone else can say anything. Here's the thing. I no longer dwell. I no longer hurt, go in, and feel as though my heart has been ripped out. Why feedback has changed. To the process of trying to get the Anchor Your Dreams retreat off the ground last fall, yes, I was creating a retreat. It was a deep dive into putting this all together. So I was in communication with a lot of people, from potential attendees to the venue hosts to sponsors and to catering, workshop facilitators. The only way I could get through the no's from these collaborators, partners, sponsors, or the maybes was to remind myself that it was feedback. It was an answer. It was data. While I was able to prepare for everything and have a date and a plan, all in under 2 months, no one bought a ticket. I had failed. I prepped my audience. I dripped and I dropped. I pulled and I prayed. And what I mean by pulled was I thought that I had done the research with my audience. I thought that I had enough pulls on Instagram stories, enough this or that to gain some understanding of what people wanted and what people were looking for. I worked really hard to bring this beautiful vision and dream to reality. Hosting a retreat has been something that I've been dreaming of for many years. It goes on my vision board each year. So the data pointed to it being the wrong time. The feedback was that I needed to do more relationship building in community, as that is important to me. And at the time, the community around me wasn't ready to commit. The feedback gave me my answer and then more questions. Another form of feedback is the directly given format, as in someone telling you their opinion. This is often, as I stated for myself, interchangeable with criticism. This was a game changer for me. The simple idea that all feedback is neutral. Is there a best practice to give feedback? Yes, of course. Just like any communication, tone, body language, and words matter. The other point to bring up is, are you receiving it and gave consent to the feedback? Perhaps your mother-in-law is over and she wants to let you know that your casserole is overcooked. You could entertain the feedback by listening and furthering the conversation, or you could let her know that you are not feeling neutral to hear any feedback and end the communication. If you choose to entertain, you are now opening up to candor. If she is your mother-in-law, you likely have a rapport and built a style of candor with her. For example, mother-in-law says, "My experience of this casserole is that it is overcooked." This is her inarguable truth, which is given as a form of feedback. It sounds pretty neutral. Here, she isn't blaming or trying to be a victim, nor being a villain, simply stating that her palate and taste buds are experiencing overcooked food. No, she said, on the other hand, if she said, "This casserole is overcooked, you left it too long," it lends closer to an arguable truth, and delivery is not seemingly as neutral. So back to my points. My rewiring towards feedback happened when I sat with the data from the process and journey leading up to the postponement of the retreat. Shortly after, I decided to apply for a grant. I thought to myself, what? Who? Me? How will I handle the no or the microscope into my dreams, thoughts, and heart? I knew if I didn't try and use the process and feedback for my benefit, I'd be in a constant lose-lose with myself. I had a willingness to change. I had a willingness to keep my dreams anchored and take action to move into being better. You too can train your brain. Create something, whether it is a craft, writing, baked goods. Create something, create it from your heart. Then pick a few people to offer you feedback on your creation. Remember that these are neutral thoughts. You can even ask them to give your feedback in a specific format, such as, quote, "My thoughts are," then they will explain their thoughts, end quote. Once you receive your feedback, I would like you to not say anything in return other than thank you. It's really important to just appreciate that they took some time, because often people have a hard time giving feedback just as much as some people have a hard time receiving feedback. So thank them for taking the time to do that. The next step is to find a few minutes and write down everything that comes up for you. What are you feeling? If you are feeling sad or hurt, why are you feeling that way? This experience can be repeated in multiple ways, multiple times. The more often you accept feedback and review the data to process it and feel through it, the faster you will see that feedback is an important tool for growth. Just like a podcast host asks for reviews, this is feedback from the audience. I'd love your help with feedback on my podcast. I'm asking for you to share yours with me. So whichever capacity you have, whether that's a DM, an email, or a complete review and rating on the podcast listening platform you are on right now, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me on this solo episode. Joining this week's episode of Anchor Your Dreams. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. A big thank you to our incredible guest for sharing their wisdom and insights. If you resonated with today's episode and want to explore more about turning your dreams into reality, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We have a lineup of amazing guests and valuable content coming your way. Don't forget to connect with us on social media. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Share your thoughts, insights, and your own journey using the hashtag Anchor Your Dreams. Head over to our website at meghanmcquillan.com in the podcast section, where you'll find the show notes, resources, and information about upcoming episodes. Before we wrap up, I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you. Your support means the world to me, and I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you. Remember, anchored dreams become goals. Anchored goals become results. Until next time, dream big and stay anchored.